Hey y'all, welcome to this week's episode of Race Kiki. I'm Jonathan, but you already knew that. This week, I had the opportunity to have a conversation with Kerel Revis of Minority Report. He's one of the three aunties on Minority Report, of course, and it's an incredible podcast that I follow. Um, Kerel Kerel is very smart and his insights are impeccable. I'm very glad to have had this conversation. It's real funny. So drink it up. Hope you enjoy. And remember, we can't fix a problem we're afraid to talk about. So let's talk about race. Like and subscribe this. Go over to Minority Report wherever you find your podcasts and drink that up too, because you're going to love it. Now, may I present to you Minority Report's own Kerel Revis. Oh, how cute.
Okay.
Um, hey, Kerel, welcome to Race Kiki with Jonathan Lee.
Thank you for having me, Boo.
So, for all of y'all who don't know, Kerel is one of the three aunties of Minority Report, and every Monday when I drop, they drop. And honey, they take you. They've taken me places, and I'm sitting back and I'm and I'm like, yeah, okay, I feel you. But then Dewan comes in because Dewan's been a guest of mine before. Dewan
Yes.
comes in and he's all calm and he's all like, he's all serene and he says, well, this is what I've decided. And I'm like, okay, fine,
Right.
fine. You don't have to be all, you know, but it's
Exactly.
cute.
Messy.
It's cute.
Exactly.
Anyway,
We,
so
we call her Auntie. Well, we used to call her Auntie Grace because she would always come in with the element of grace. But there's been some episodes where she's been the one that's stirring the pot. So don't let it fool you.
so I brought you here because you're in Atlanta, and
Yes.
I haven't asked this question to a Black queer person in Atlanta,
Okay.
namely a Black queer person in Atlanta with a white partner.
That part. But he says he's Arab, which I got scolded by him before. That was a
Okay,
whole
okay,
heated.
well,
I know.
okay,
My point was like he presents as white, they wouldn't know that he's Arab. But
okay.
for him, he identifies as Arab. So I'm like, okay, you checked me. I got you. But I get what you're saying too, because I said the same thing.
But at that point, identity is identity. And if
Yeah,
that's how you identify, so be it. And for
exactly.
that, I completely respect.
Yeah, he checked me on that. I was like, okay, you checked me.
You're like,
We'll
oh,
get me all the way
okay,
together.
well, sorry, girl, I'm sorry.
Huh.
Is there anything else I've said that is?
Literally, he listened to the podcast, and I forget
Mhm,
what episode it was on that it came up. And I said he was a white guy, even though I know
mhm,
he's Arab. I know,
mhm.
but like my point in that particular conversation was like he could walk into any room and they would not know that.
Mhm.
And but like once he heard that episode, he got me all the way together. After that, I was like, okay, that's valid. I was like,
Oh,
I'm willing to grow and check
mhm,
me on that.
mhm.
So, but yes, Atlanta living in what most folks would believe to be a white man. Yes.
When did you learn about race?
Oh Lord. Um, that's a good question. I don't know. I can't recall the first time I realized that I was Black because, like, I almost have to give you my history to kind of put it in perspective. So, my parents are from Southwest Georgia, grew
Okay.
up in segregation.
Mhm.
My dad always tells a story that he didn't really have a white friend until he went to get his PhD at Iowa State. So, he left literally Southwest Georgia, went to Albany State, historically Black college, met my mom, graduated, went to go get his PhD at Iowa State.
Mhm.
So he went from the South to like the whitest of the white
To
in
Iowa.
Iowa. Yes.
Yeah. Mm.
And so he said he was in his mid 20s before he was able to really have a white friend, not because he didn't want to, just because the way he grew up in the segregation that was still around, the communities he was in, they just really didn't mix and things like that. And
Mm-hmm.
so he goes to Iowa. I was actually born in Iowa. Then we moved to Michigan. So I grew up in Michigan and things like that in a predominantly white school district. But then my parents
Okay.
are pastors. So they were pastors over a predominantly Black church.
Okay.
So for me, I don't know if I ever realized young the really difference. Yes, I knew the skin types are different and things like that. But I was so engrossed in both worlds
Mm-hmm.
that it was just the norm for me. And luckily, growing up where I did, I grew up in a district where I was there from like kindergarten to like high school. And
Okay.
it helped ease some of that racism tension that I saw happen to families that moved in. Maybe they came in like ninth grade or 10th grade and things like that. And always felt like I had to protect them because I knew there was racial background behind it of some of the
Mm-hmm.
way they would treat him, just like, oh, look at the way he dressed and things like that. So it was probably more like middle school and high school where I really realized, oh, some of these people that I've known my entire life might still have some of these biases and and racism that luckily I think my parents did a great job of kind of protecting me, my brother and sister from.
Mm-hmm.
So I can't recall a distinct moment where I knew I was Black and they were white, but I do remember the first time I got called the N-word and those kind of moments. And then looking back and realizing some of the conversations or some of the remarks were probably a little veiled in racism and things like that, that it's
Mm-hmm.
taken literally
Mm-hmm.
my life to realize, damn, they had these biases, even though they liked Kerel, quote unquote.
And yeah, because you were the safe one.
Exactly. We were
Because
the
they knew,
token
oh
family.
yeah, him, Carell. Oh, we know Carell. He's good.
Exactly.
He's not, he's not black.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. And it took me probably to like high school for that to really start to click in, but like, okay, that's what some of these remarks are. That's what this kind of is. And it unfortunately, sometimes it is what it is. You're trying to just survive, especially at that point, because I knew I was gay and it wasn't out yet. So like you're still
Mm-hmm.
just trying to cover up some parts of yourself and just trying to make it through.
Mm-hmm.
But
Mm-hmm.
it's taken for me to get older to realize some of the stuff that I did go through was veiled racism or veiled bias and veiled everything, quite frankly. So yeah,
Okay.
a lot to
Follow-up
unpack there. I
question.
know.
No, no, it really it sounds a familiar tale.
hmm
Um, a little backstory. My when did you learn about race? It's one of my favorite stories to tell. When I was in the third grade, I went to school, well, third grade in Natchez, Mississippi. Now, if
hmm
you don't know where Natchez, Mississippi is,
I don't.
girl, it is deep. It's where the Mississippi River empties.
Shut up. Okay. Okay.
So Natchez is beautiful,
Yeah.
filled with plantations, honey. Plantations.
Yeah. Yeah.
Remember that part. Now, I'm in the third grade, little knock saying, skipping to school, minding my Christian business. And the teacher, little white woman, bangs, prints and shit. And she's all like, let's go on this field trip. So all of us little black kids at, I think the school's probably Broomfield. I feel like it was named
hmm
Broomfield. So we go to Broomfield, um, get on a little bus, and we go to uh, a working plantation. And we're met by a white woman in the hoop skirt and the whole fiddle dee dee, the whole nonsense,
Yeah.
right? But we, as little black children, were not allowed inside the plantation house. What we were, no, no,
Wait.
no, I haven't even got to the good part yet.
Oh,
So,
Jesus.
white teacher takes all these black students, these little third graders, so I'm thinking we're
Right.
probably 8 years old, somewhere in there. We walk around the house, through the fields, back around the path where there's slave quarters and black people recreating this moment. White teacher looks at black kids and says, see, your people were here and they were happy.
Shut up. Wait, okay, so how as a third, and I know here's me trying to interview you now, but like as a third grader, how does that resonate? Like, do you realize in that moment, like, wait, hold on, this is fucked up? Or are you just like, okay, I'm ready to go home because it's hot outside?
It didn't register until much
Yeah,
later in my life. Actually, up until I started this conversation that I'm
yeah,
having. Last year, around this time, actually, I was down in on the shore with my friends, the Michaels, who I run a charity. Well, one of them run Impact NYC,
okay,
social organization for HIV positive men. We promote stigma. Well, we combat stigma and isolation associated with HIV.
gotcha, love that.
Awesome group.
Yeah,
Um, we were down telling this story, and there was an incident that happened that involved that I was carrying an African fan, leather fan. You
yeah,
open it up, it's all
yeah.
beautiful. One of the gentlemen, I'm using that term lightly, picked up this
Ooh.
fan, and he's all like, "What is this?" I'm all like, "A fan." I mean, it looks so stupid. Where'd you even get it from? I was like, well, we actually picked it up in the African American Museum
Yeah,
in Jackson, Mississippi. Um, then he, with all of the honesty of a white queer man, said, why would there be an African fan in Mississippi? And I said to him, slavery.
point blank period. Yeah,
And I left it there.
right.
And here he comes all beat red in the face and shit, start
Yeah,
hemming and hawing,
yeah,
backpedaling and shit. And I'm sitting there like, and at that moment, all of these memories of me being the the black face in white spaces
yeah,
hit me
yeah.
because after I left Mississippi, I moved, family and I moved around a lot. I got out of high school, went to college, and then joined the military. Military
Okay.
sent me to San Antonio, and then I went to Colorado.
Oh wow. Yeah. Yeah.
Colorado, as you know, is very white,
Yes. Yes.
very white. And while in Colorado, I got into a car accident and lost my memory. And
Wow.
I, at that time, I was dating this very kind, nice white guy from Iowa. And
Mm-hmm. Small world.
when I woke up from this moment, everyone around me was white.
Mm,
Everyone,
yeah.
nurses, doctors, orderlies, everybody was white.
Yeah.
I go home, all of my friends are white. I didn't look in the mirror for 2 weeks. So then I look in the mirror and I'm all like, oh, what a surprise.
Wow. 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 Whoa. Hold on. That's a lot to unpack right there. So like you wake up, so your memory is just seeing the white people. So your assumption
I
was,
didn't have,
or you didn't have any kind of correlation.
I
You
didn't
just,
even, it didn't even register.
yeah.
It didn't even register. And then a series of wacky events. I broke up with one fella, started hanging out with another, and this particular fella was like, the kind of white guy who likes to keep black pets.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. For fetish reasons, probably. The fetishize. I can't even say the word
That
fetishization of
particular
black
word,
men.
yes,
Mm-hmm.
the sexualization. See, I like that one.
Mm-hmm.
That
There we
one's
go.
easier to say.
Right. So it was because I was stumbling. I was stumbling hard. But no, I
And
absolutely know
so,
that.
like all of that toxic feeling was rumbling up in me, and I'm like, wait a minute. I'm not doing this shit anymore. I'm
Mm,
not gonna do this, whatever this is. I want no parts of it anymore.
yeah.
And from that day forward, I wanted to just have conversations about race and
Love it.
unpack it and figure out what you know, tell you what
Yeah,
I know, and then at the end of it, we might know something different or something
exactly.
better or something more evolved than we did before that we
Right.
didn't know before.
It is one conversation that I do want to sit down with my parents,
Mm-hmm.
because now that I'm in a space, in a mind space that I could comprehend, and I've been through some stuff, in life, just to know how they navigated from literally predominantly black spaces, segregated spaces,
Uh-huh.
to an all white space, to now to a spot where like they raised us, was at least the school district we were in was predominantly white, but then pastoring a predominantly black church, and doing all that and not being jaded with what they went through, because it's only been recent years that my dad has started to unpack and kind of tell me and my siblings some stories of what he went through growing up.
Mm-hmm.
And like I know like a couple years ago he was saying, he's like, because we like where were we down here? I think it was like when my grandfather passed, so we're down here, and so like seeing like his aunt, so like my great aunt and things like that, and it was just kind of stirring up thoughts and memories for him. And he
Mm-hmm.
told me of this story. He was like, yeah, you see Aunt Grace over there, um because like she never had like a husband around her, that for all my life. And he told me a story because he's like, yeah, her husband was shot and killed when like I was young, like my dad said when he was young. I was like, oh wow, I never knew that. He's like,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. And the reason was like they a white cop came and shot, I guess would have been my great uncle in their front yard, black man in the front yard, and never got prosecuted. Nothing like that ever came to it. And it uproared a lot of folks, obviously, in the community down there.
Mm-hmm.
And they were actually part of the civil rights that ended up being happening in Alabama, was supposed to happen in Southwest Georgia, but the cops down in that area rallied all the civil rights leaders in the community and put them in different jails throughout Georgia, so they couldn't communicate. So they
Mm-hmm.
couldn't communicate with the folks that over in Alabama and Mississippi and the rest of the South. So they
Mm-hmm.
moved like a lot of the civil rights to Alabama. And I'm like, that is crazy. Like all this stuff that I'm like, how did I not know this? How has he not told us that? But it makes me realize that they're probably holding on to a lot of these stories so we could conclude and come to our own conclusion through our own life journey, which I would have never known now that until I've gotten older and understand, that's what they did.
That's what.
Because
Mm-hmm.
they could have easily told us that story when we were young and made it so much probably harder to be in a predominantly white community, because now we have some of their Louis Vuitton luggage on us that they probably haven't even maybe all the way dealt with, or maybe they have, but maybe we perceive it like, oh well, fuck all these white people. Now if you did that to my dad's uncle, or my great uncle, and
Mm-hmm.
killed them, all of you are bad. So it's just interesting that now that I'm older and being able to just think through a lot of stuff, how would I, like, say if I had kids and
Mm-hmm.
went through the same situations my parents went through, and raised kids in a predominantly white community, what would the approach be that I did? Like, how do you tell them stories? Because like they always made us proud of who we were and who we are. Like black, like I mean, black first, and then just even just like just being proud. If you're smart, you're smart. If you're doing great in sports, you're doing great in sports, whatever it may be, and to be proud in that. So I never had issue of really, at least the black part of my identity. It sucked growing up in a predominantly white community because I knew there was some cultural differences and things like that. But I look back and sometimes I think it was hard for me to distinguish, am I hiding because I'm black or am I hiding because I'm gay? And I think a lot of it was probably more I didn't allow myself to fully be, more because I was gay more so than even
Uh-huh.
being black. Because luckily, even though we're in a white community, we were also always in the church in a black community as well. And
Now
so I never missed that part of myself.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Um, you were educated in a white community.
Hmm.
Where did you live?
In the white community.
In the
But
white community.
yeah, but like, so like where I'm from, Saginaw, Michigan. So there's like Saginaw, like the hood of Saginaw.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's
Mm-hmm.
like the outer skirts, for lack of better words, the burbs, but it's a small town. So I don't know if you could really consider it burbs. But then there was like the outskirts of like the town where I grew up. And so that's where a lot of the more white districts were.
Okay.
And so where my dad ended up getting a job at out of college, or out of getting his PhD, it was a happy medium between Saginaw, Midland, kind of like the bigger communities, for where he needed to work, and that's where they
Okay.
settled down at. And so, yeah, lived in the white community, but then the church is in like another kind of part of the white community, but all the Black families in that community wanted a sense of community and migrated and like kind of congregated at my dad's church. So literally all the Black folks in that area came to our church. And so we all had a similar experience because we were all these Black children, and a lot of the moms and dads of the church had come from the South. So even they had their own little like family friends and probably told stories and things because they were all from like Louisiana and North Carolina and Georgia and things like that. So it worked out, thank God, to have this sense of community that we all were going through the same situation of these microaggressions that we're experiencing from the white community. But luckily we had all these Black friends and things like that. Sunday morning at church, Wednesday night Bible study, church picnics, like everything like that. So it kind of evened out our lives, quite frankly.
Were those children from the church also in your school?
No. And that's the crazy thing too. Like the most of them, so there's Saginaw and there's Midland. Midland's known for Dow, like Dow and Dow Corning. So if people know those big companies, so a lot of folks worked either at Dow or Dow Corning, and a lot of the folks at our church went to schools in Midland. And so we were a little farther away. And so we were in the Saginaw Township and went to schools at a school called Freeland High. So they had more Black people in their schools than even I did because I went to a smaller school. And we were like, honestly, the only Black family up until, we were one of two up until, oh God, what grade was I in? Maybe 8th grade, 9th grade. And then like a couple other families moved in. And I just remembered seeing how folks were treating them, like the students, like they were a couple years younger than I was, but just because like some of them came from quote unquote the hood and things like that, and so they might dress a little different than even I did because I was dressing, quite frankly, like the white kids because that's all I knew.
You were, because that's what you knew.
But it was just interesting to see how they were treating them versus how they treated me. And I think now that I'm talking out loud, that's probably one of the first times that I realized, ooh, like I didn't have words to put to it, but realizing, oh man,
you were grandfathered in.
That part.
You were grandfathered in. You were the safe Black because you were the one that was always around,
always there.
And you were pliable, and you didn't come with that ghetto baggage.
Is that this stereotype of what they thought a Black person could be or should be, but then them not realizing, hold on, there's a whole fucking spectrum of Black people.
How dare you?
You know, so it's
how
just
very
like,
goddamn dare you?
Exactly. So that's the part again that I just didn't realize until I got older, that they thought, since I'm not this part of the spectrum, that I'm not Black, or, oh, Kerel, you talk white, or, oh, you're educated. Like another microaggression that always used to come up is like, I got a full ride scholarship because I'm smart and things like that.
I get you.
But a lot of times people are like, oh, what sport did you play? I'm like, well, thank you for thinking my body type is looking sporty. You know, I will take that. But
no, girl, she knows how to read.
Wait, thank you. It's like, I know how to read and write. You know, is it surprising that I'm smart and could actually get an academic full ride?
When I was in Colorado, the minute I opened my mouth, people would say, oh my God, where are you from? I'm from Mississippi. No, where are you really from? Because, you know, you're not Black. Black, are you? I was like, what are you trying to say?
Yes.
What are you trying to? Well, you speak English so well. I was like, I know, it's my only language. I should be able to speak it
that part. That part. Yeah, it's quite interesting. But in a weird way, I'm glad to have gone through what I went through. Glad to grow up where I grew up, because it's provided me a different perspective, especially over the last few years of, I don't even say his name, I call him old boy, old boy's administration, because a lot of times we're like, oh, Kerel, you wouldn't understand, you don't know. I'm like, no, I lived in middle nowhere, Michigan, with all these white people that are saying the same shit that you're saying now. I understand the mentality. I saw it the first 18 years of
Colorado.
my life, you know? So don't tell me I don't understand because I
Don't tell
lived it.
me. Yes.
So it's been interesting to have those conversations the last few years because they see, oh, Kerel, you lived in Chicago. Oh, Kerel, you lived in Dallas. Oh, Kerel, you live in Atlanta, these bigger areas. It's like, but no, the first half of my life, literally, I grew up in this situation of where blue collar, and if the plant went down, literally, poverty goes up and people losing
Mm-hmm.
jobs and things like that. And so it's like, I get it growing up in Michigan where everything is so hinged on the auto industry.
Mm-hmm.
I understand it,
Mm-hmm.
but that does not justify racism. It doesn't justify bigotry and homophobia and transphobia, like all the phobias that you're trying to justify because you're saying, oh, it's just so hard up here in the middle of Michigan. No.
I truly believe and follow these breadcrumbs.
Okay.
I believe that we as Americans, period,
Mm-hmm.
the minute we are born, we are groomed, indoctrinated, if you will, into white supremacy.
For
And
sure.
we all have our roles to play. And we all have these expectations placed upon us to go along to get along. You've heard that.
Mm-hmm.
The minute you shake it up, the minute you make a little bit of noise, here comes white supremacy saying, but these people are going to take your jobs, but these people are coming after your kids, but these people are doing this, but these people have this, which are pitting all of us disenfranchised people. I really don't like that term,
Right.
but I would love to underserved people. That's a better term.
The non-privileged people.
The non-privileged. But all of us rabble, all of us workers, all of us worker bees here fighting amongst ourselves while the billionaires are laughing at all of this stupidity. And no matter where you go, no matter what avenue you take, I truly believe white supremacy and racism is at the end of it. And money.
I agree.
It's just like, well, those three things, you're all like, oh, well, what's happening? Oh, okay, it's just racism. What's happening?
I mean, the whole fabric of the country was built around it. Literally, that's what the founders wanted. They literally baked it from the get-go to serve them. So it's just like when people don't realize that or don't want to acknowledge that, that's where a lot of the issues
choosing not to. No,
exactly.
Blissfully ignorant to the
absolutely
fact. And what all of the uproar and what I'm seeing now is the 40 some odd states are fucking with voters' rights. 30 some odd states are fucking with trans people. Every fucking state's cops are executing black men.
And women.
And non-binary humans. Our trans brothers and sisters of color are being just dragged. And when they're not being dragged, they're being exploited. Let's talk about Legendary. So it's just like,
that's a whole conversation.
I see it. You're seeing it all, and you're like, you can't be watching the same thing I am and coming to a different conclusion that we're all being programmed into this stupidity.
Right. I couldn't have said that any better. It's just odd. One thing I've realized too as I've gotten older is I probably was more silent than I needed to be growing up. Again, out of just self-preservation, selfishly.
No, you were more complicit. And I know why. I know why. Because it was safer for us
absolutely
to be in and deal with that shit, because we heard how
what they say,
what they dragged those others of us, the ones that they thought were different. We heard what they said.
Absolutely. And it's
Sometimes we
interesting.
even green lighted it. Sometimes we even laughed along with it. Sometimes we even co-signed
Yeah,
with it.
yeah,
And we even participated in
we
the
enabled
dragging
it.
of our fellow brother,
That I
sister,
don't
or
know if I ever did
non-binary.
though. That's the one point that I like. I think I had a line, not even knowing I had a line, because
Mhm.
I always, and I don't know if it's maybe the quote unquote the church upbringing and things like that at that time. Once it kind of got to that line of saying, "Oh, they're different" or things like that, for some reason that was my point of always speaking up. I don't know why, and maybe
Mhm.
it's because like I knew I was different,
Mhm.
quote unquote.
Mhm. Mhm.
So it was always that line. But I agree, there was times probably that where I enabled them to say what they wanted to say because I didn't speak up quickly enough or enough times. But now that I do, and I don't shut up now at Kerel at 37 years old now, I find that it rubs some of those old friends or old acquaintances the wrong way because they can't believe that I am speaking up and saying what I am saying, and that I'm speaking up against probably what they believe in and things like that. And it's interesting some of the conversations that I've had over the last few years, even with folks that might have been in my circle in the past and things like that, that they can't believe, well, Kerel, why would you even post that? Why would you even say that? Why would, because it needs to be said. And if I, especially on like a Facebook where it's just like, I still have folks on my Facebook, quote unquote, friends that live back home that probably don't have anyone that looks like me or is gay in their circle. And I'm the only one that's popping up on their timeline
Mhm.
saying what needs to be said. So a lot of
Mhm.
folks are like, oh, I unfriended this person. I'm like, hell no, I've only unfriended one person. And the only reason I unfriended her from back home, and this was like within the last year, is because she was starting to attack other folks that I like cared for on my page. So I was like,
Right.
okay, I
Right.
feel bad for them. I can handle my shit. You ain't going,
Mhm.
you ain't
Mhm.
gonna put me
You ain't
down.
gonna
I'm
bother
good.
me.
But once I saw that she was doing that to them, I was like, no, I can't have that. But other than that, I'm like, you're going to see my shit pop up on your timeline. And I'm not hiding you, I'm not unfriending you, because unfortunately, I might be the only person that at least at one point in time you were cool enough with to accept my friend request or I accepted your friend request.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
you need to see it one way or the
Mhm.
other.
Mhm. That's a really interesting thought process. Now,
I know, I know.
listen, I don't unfriend anybody either. I don't. I'm like, look, I said what I said. I'm gonna
That
say what
part.
I, and if you know me,
Uh-huh.
and just in the moments we've spent together, I don't give a fuck.
That part.
I don't care how. I'm here to protect mine and the ones that love me.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's one of those things where when I see it, I have to say something.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
this is my favorite thing to say. I usually say it at the end, but um, I don't do it for you. And I'm not talking about you, Kerel. I'm
Right.
talking about you, the white person I'm talking to.
Yeah.
I don't do it for you. I do it for that black or brown person you say some shit too, and they whoop your ass. I don't want them to catch a case.
Hmm.
That's why I do it.
That part. That part. That's a
Because
real ass
I don't give a
statement.
damn about you. The education I'm giving you is free. But you
Huh.
can take this ass whooping if you want to.
I know
I'm not
that's
going to
right.
do it.
Right.
But there have been times where I've just allowed some foolishness to walk on by. I'm all like, I just want to see how this plays out.
Like, right. Right. I just want to say I was gonna go down.
And just as sure as shit, there you go. See, you got knocked out. I told you were going to. You should have
Exactly.
listened.
Exactly.
That's your fault.
That's
That has
on you.
nothing to do with me.
Nothing. I agree with that statement.
And so since all of this foolishness has been happening with 45, because the minute he paraded his
Oh Lord.
racist diatribe of nonsense up into the way that
Yeah.
house,
You're right.
um built by slaves, no doubt,
That
but
part.
walking in here disrespecting it with, I'm trying very hard not to drag her, but all I will say is I have never in my entire life seen a first lady's titties until that last one.
That part. You're right.
Anyway.
More than just the titties, too. Ooh. I mean, it is what it is. And here's the thing. I mean, I'm sure a lot of people don't see my nudes out there, but I ain't the first lady.
You're not the. I'm not the first lady. I am not. I'm not standing. And again, I am not trying to police women because that is not my place. That is. I have no place.
Mine either.
I have no place. Those are your titties. Show them to anybody you want to.
Show them off, girl.
Shit, I love titties.
Huh? Come on.
But that isn't what I'm saying here. What I'm saying here is when we green lighted that, it was a go ahead to embolden everything else that came along with it.
Exactly.
And that's how we are here yet again. I've been digesting all these documentaries as of late, and I was just watching one. It's called Pride on Hulu.
Oh, you know what? I've been wanting to watch that. That's the one that's been on FX all week.
It's so good. It's like 3 parts of it. It goes each decade. And I just finished watching the 70s. And it's showing this movement, the start of the movement. And it was showing this multicultural kind of experience of everybody there together, fighting. But cut to now, where the only time back in the day when I was a single gal, she's married now.
You know,
back when I was a single gal running these streets and all of the disrespect, and I'm, what are you, 38? 37?
Don't age me too much now, boo.
No, but take this one on. I am 48.
Work it out, honey. I know that's
and
right.
loving everything.
Every second. That's the way to do it, boo. Age has never been an issue for me.
No, like, I'm drinking it all up because I look like this, and I know
that's right. Ow.
Shit. Maybe it's Maybelline. No, it's just me.
No, bitch, it's black. Don't crack.
No, bitch, it's me. No. I've seen some crack black. And
that is true. That is true. It does get a little rough.
this black has been well taken care of.
It's like no, bitch, it's my skin routine.
I promised myself when I was that little black boy person in Mississippi, and I'm all like, oh, she doesn't need to be here. Ooh. And I knew that I needed to be elsewhere because I couldn't walk around being
in your truth.
I couldn't be everything that I was there.
Exactly.
I couldn't, because I know that I couldn't.
That's a real statement.
Back to my original thought process. So here I am sitting in Asbury Park, New Jersey, with all my white friends and my white, beautiful white boyfriend, and I'm thinking, here I am, yet again, in a room full of white men.
Yeah.
Instead of complaining about it, use that access.
Absolutely.
To teach them some shit. Absolutely. Because I am often the lone black man in a room full of white queers. I don't know why that is. And more importantly, why am I the only one there? I can't be the only fabulous black man in the world. I can't be.
No.
You're fabulous. You should be there. We should all be there. Absolutely. And why aren't we all there?
That's interesting. Like, I've had very similar situations like that. But one thing I don't know if I cognizantly did it. One thing I'm grateful for, when I went to college, like my freshman year, there were three black guys, like including me, and one white guy. And he was from like middle nowhere, Michigan, which that's a whole nother. I'll tell that story in a second. But once I had those three roommates, I kind of almost made a choice then. I'm like, I want to make sure that I surround myself with as much diversity as possible. Yes, that means I'm probably going to still be the only black guy at times in a room of white folks, but let me try to at least control and befriend who I can control and befriend, and not trying to control them, but like control my situation as much as possible. And luckily, since college, I've been able, for the most part, to have a pretty diverse group. However, it doesn't mean that I'm still not the only black person in some of these friend groups. But luckily, as well as a queer black man, part of what, like doing Minority Report, the podcast that I'm on with Dewan and Jarrell, that was another thing that was important to me, was to show the friendship of queer black men. Because you don't see that out there a lot. Doesn't mean that we're not still friends with a lot of white folks. Doesn't mean we're not friends with a lot of Latino, whatever it may be.
It's just a different kind of friendship.
It's a different kind of friendship because they understand it. And it's only been the last probably like decade of my life that I've been able to surround myself with the queer black man. And they just get the black part of me, they get the queer part of me, they get the, oh God, I've been the only black man in the white room and things like that. And it's just there's this unneeded and unnecessary conversation that needs to be had. We get it. We get it. But whenever I am in situations where I am the only, because like you, for some reason, it seems to occur. And it seems that I've been granted this weird permission because of where I probably grew up and things like that. And I dress not what you think is stereotypically I should be dressing, and I might not sound what safe. I'm stereotypical. Exactly, that safe zone.
Yeah, you're safe.
I ensure that, hold on, you're not just going to tokenize me. I am a spectrum. And you're going to get that total spectrum. You're not just going to silo me because I'm safe for this particular part. Nope, you're going to get this full spectrum, whatever that looks, sounds, and may be. And if you're not participating of being an ally for the black community, if you're not participating of being an ally for the queer community,
nope,
I'm not going to be here anymore.
Nope, I got to stop you right there because there's a word that you're using that I'm done with.
Queer?
No, ally.
Oh, you don't like the word ally?
Let me tell you why.
Okay.
An ally has the opportunity to acquiesce. An accomplice does not.
So you like the word accomplice better than
my boyfriend is my accomplice. No matter the situation, he is there.
Yeah.
My friend Michael is my accomplice. No matter the situation, he is there. He does not have the opportunity. They don't have the opportunity to stand on the side and decide whether or not they want to participate in my demise. I'm sorry, not demise, but my
or they're trying to demise you, like the potential.
They don't get to watch my shit. What's the word I'm looking for?
I don't know. But the destruction, quite frankly, of your community.
Yes,
folks that
you
look
don't
like
get to watch the destruction of my community. You have to be an active participant in the solution.
Okay.
Otherwise, your allyship is bullshit.
Okay. I'm not mad at that. Okay.
Yeah. And
I'm an ally versus accomplice.
Yeah. Okay. It's because I hear it and I hear people, and after George Floyd was executed, and after black man and Breonna Taylor and Philando Castile, and after all of this, and I see all of these, oh my God, I'm an ally. And then the moment and everybody did the Black Triangle and all of this, and then the very next day, you're giving money to Republican super PACs.
Yeah.
The very next day, you're participating in the subjugation of trans people. The very next day, you are participating in the taking the way of rights. Fuck all the fuck your allyship.
Yeah, no, I hear you on that. Does an ally let me think. Is ally the first step and then you become an accomplice, or you already jump into accomplice what's the word? Like you're already an accomplice from the get-go.
I feel like I don't know the answer to that. I think that the minute you see how this country actually works and
Yeah.
who it benefits, the minute you see it, you can't unsee it,
Right.
is what I've been telling everyone.
Yeah.
And the minute you see it and you decide to participate or not,
Yeah.
you decide that, oh my God, I'm an ally.
Right.
Are you really?
Right. So an
If you're
ally doesn't have the works behind it. An ally
ally
doesn't
doesn't have
have.
no,
Okay.
that's such a random term.
Yeah.
I could tell you I'm an ally. I could be an ally for everything.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
could be, and that means I could participate or I could not.
Gotcha. So an accomplice, you have to participate. Like
I have to
there's
participate.
okay.
Otherwise, I'm just giving you empty lip service.
Right.
And we are so used to hearing that.
Yeah. No,
And
that's a valid statement.
and at the end of the day, all of the things that we've been doing we've made steps. We've made great steps, but we're still here.
Yeah.
We're still being murdered. We're still being we still don't have the access to wealth. We still get subpar educations if we're not fortunate enough. You
Right.
told the story, like you went to this white school your entire life,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Here my little black ass is in Mississippi, skipping around, knock knocks. Remember her? So we moved when I was in the 6th grade. Wait, no, we moved a lot. My family lived in Chicago and Michigan, but we moved to Tacoma, Washington when I was in the 6th grade.
Okay.
And we lived on this army base, and we were living in this big ass house. And
Yeah.
I met my first person from Guam, and then
Yeah.
I got a crush on a white boy.
I got a crush.
I got a crush on a little white boy named Chad. And girl, she rocked. I was so heartbroken on Chad.
Yes.
But anyway, I went to the 6th grade in Tacoma, Washington. So cut to, I went to the 9th grade in Natchez, Mississippi. When I entered the 9th grade in Natchez, Mississippi, I was being taught the exact same subject, the exact same information I learned in the 6th grade, thereby making me the smartest person in the room.
Yeah.
And because of that, I went from regular classes to only AP classes.
Right.
Oh my God, you're so smart. I'm smarter than all of you. And that's only because I've been afforded a different kind of education.
Yeah, absolutely. Education is so huge. And another area of it is just like realizing as well that a lot of the education in the textbooks and everything is written by white culture. Like it's not written by Black people. It's not written by Latinos. It's not written by Native Americans.
No.
And so that's something
always written by the conqueror.
Exactly. And so that's part of it too, as I've gotten older, realizing and questioning what I've learned and seeking out my own education or additional education, at least, because at least, okay, I got one side of the story. Let me get the other side of the story and see, in the middle and come to my conclusion.
Merge these two together.
Exactly.
And then you say, oh, wait, that gives full context as to
that part,
why this was going on.
And I wish more communities of color found a way, and I know it's around money. So a lot of these communities are not getting the funds that they need to do what I'm about to say, but found a way to write their own textbooks, or at least, and some of them do, definitely do, but at least tell a fuller spectrum, because it's like, okay, if it's a predominantly Black community, they ain't gonna tell us shit. They can't tell me nothing. They don't know what we're teaching these kids. So let's find a way.
No, because I will tell you this. The curriculum in those particular schools is heavily monitored.
Yes, you're right on that.
It is heavily edited.
You're right on that.
Can't, do you know, Lovecraft Country taught me about Black Wall Street.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
like, how did I not? I was educated
Yeah.
in various parts of the country,
And it doesn't come up at all.
and it didn't come up. I remember Black History Month, where we
Yeah.
learned about the top five.
Right. Exactly.
And we recited the "I Have a Dream" speech, and then we
And that was
put
it.
as if Black people only contributed for
Right.
1 month's worth of work, and
That
then we
part.
go back to being indoctrinated into this. These are the jobs you're gonna get anyway.
Yeah.
So we're gonna teach you how to be a janitor. We're gonna teach you don't aim too high.
Right. Right. Yeah. And that's another area that I keep saying this every time these kind of deeper conversations come up. I'm literally probably going to do it now because it keeps coming up. Having some sub part of our podcast where I talk to my dad, because I wonder if they were intentional, especially within the church, of surrounding us. Because, like, luckily, going to church, and even though that was problematic in other areas for me,
Uh-huh.
it allowed me to see successful Black people. And not
Mm-hmm.
even, and it wasn't even them saying, "Oh, we're successful! Yay, we got a great job! Yay, look at
It
us!" It was just a day in, day out
it
thing.
was a dignity in which the way they earned
Absolutely.
their place in there, and they walked through the community with this air of dignity.
And they educated us and they corrected us and things like
Mm-hmm.
that. And I don't know if I would have gotten that if my parents weren't pastors at this church. Because if, like, say they didn't go to church or I wasn't surrounded by that part of the community, it'd be interesting what my tune would be now if it was just 100% all the time within that white community. And like the
Oh.
lessons I would have been told, like, because there's things that I wasn't taught per se day in, day out, Monday through Friday in school. But
Mm-hmm.
if I went to Wednesday night Bible study or I went to church or the church picnic or I'm staying at my friend's place, you just get stories that way, especially since a
Right.
lot of them grew up in the South. So there was
Uh-huh.
just truths that I did not know that they were really teaching us that I am aware of now that I'm older and grateful
Mm-hmm.
of now that I'm older, because it probably was another way to counterbalance the community that they knew they were raising all these Black kids in.
Yes,
Does that make sense?
that makes
Um,
perfect sense. I think that my family, my mother is a, a goddamn saint.
yeah.
She had four amazing, well, yes, she had four amazing children. I'm her favorite. I'm
Of
lying, of
course you are.
course. Of
Of
course I am.
course.
But in that she raised these four incredible independent children as a nurse, um, sometimes as a single mother,
Yeah.
and she instilled in us this drive to just always be curious and always
Yeah.
question. And one of the things that I've always been so lucky is I remember I have very, very faint memories of my great grandma,
Mm,
who was born in 1901.
love. Yes.
And she was a very, 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 very fair complected woman. Up until
Yeah.
recently, we thought she was Native American. And
That's funny you say that because, like, remind me to tell my story about that after you're done.
so Medea, my great grandma. She would
Uh-huh.
be telling these beautiful stories about, like, Medea she was a goddamn baller.
Yeah.
She was, from what I'm learning, is she was the best cook in Natchez, Mississippi.
Okay, now.
So every white family wanted to hire her. So
Of course.
Medea could make her rate. She could do whatever she wanted
Yeah.
to. She lived in this giant house on 23 St. Catherine. It was just this giant white house. And Medea would be sitting there telling us stories and cussing people out.
I know that's right.
She would take care, like, the homeless. We had one homeless guy in Natchez, Mississippi, and one homeless woman by the name of Shanky Doody. And
Shanky duty.
that wasn't her Christian name, but that's what we called her.
Exactly.
and Medea would hose her off in the back of the yard and everything. But Medea was a fucking pillar
Yeah.
in the community. Everybody loved Miss Pearl.
Yeah.
Everyone knew Miss Pearl. And she was so beautiful, blah, blah, blah. She had these three daughters, my mother's being her favorite granddaughter. Um, I got a DNA test for my birthday
Yep.
last year.
Yep.
My boyfriend got it for me.
Mm-hmm.
And so I take this DNA test and I'm all excited. I was like, oh, I wonder what tribe we're from. Because,
Right.
I get it back.
English.
Nigerian, Cameroon,
Mm-hmm.
Swahili,
Yes.
Portugal, Sweden,
Yep.
Wales,
Yep.
not a drop.
I
And I
know.
called my mom. I was like, Mom, you know, Medea wasn't Native American.
Nope.
Yes, she was. I was like,
At
no, she
heart.
wasn't. I was like, no, she wasn't. Yes, she was. I mean, she was telling us stories. I was like, Mama, I just got my DNA test done.
Huh. And it's like, besides it telling me I'm 100% that bitch, it's also telling me that Medea was from Wales. It's like, I know what this DNA said.
My mom, so cute. She's all like, okay, baby. Okay, I'm gonna have to call you back. I'm gonna have to call you back.
Yeah.
3 days later, she calls me back and she's all like, I was in my feelings.
I know. I know.
She had to reconcile some
That,
things
yes.
in her head about her identity.
I understand it.
And I was just curious about mine.
Yeah. It's funny you say that. Same situation happened to me. Like, so like, I'm obviously milk chocolate. But if you look at my brother and sister, they're a little more fair complected. And then you look at like on my mom's side, if you look at like my mom's sisters, they're like fair complected. My mom's kind of a little more chocolate though as well, because like my mom's dad was like dark chocolate, but like my mom's mom was very fair complected. In the same situation, they were always told that it was Native American. But my mom said they growing up they had an Uncle Red. And they called him Red because he was so fair that he would always burn and get red and things like that. But they just thought it was Native American. So literally, maybe 5 years ago, literally my mom's dad was like, he had Alzheimer's and things, and he was like on his like deathbed. And I'm thankful that I had the wherewithal to be like, let's swab him. So we got his DNA. He was like 99% like African, which showed that it always come from my mom's side. And same thing. Told everyone they were Native American. And I get my DNA. I was the first one to get mine back. Same thing. I was like, okay, I forget all the ones of Western Africa, all the countries that I am. But the same thing. It was like 19% British, 2% like Finland or something crazy. And I'm like, okay. So I made my mom get it. And same thing. She was like a quarter white.
Right.
And so again, same thing for her. She had to like come to this reckoning of like, wow, the stories they told us weren't true. So she felt like they've been lied to, but who knows? Like, I don't blame them because maybe they were doing it to honestly protect themselves. Who knows?
That part.
We don't know.
That's
that time
exactly
frame.
what I was thinking, because I was just thinking to my mom. I was like, listen, it would have in the community, if you're going to be in the Black community, and at the time, my family's deep Mississippi.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know how they were treated as mulattoes or biracial. I know that word is incendiary, but I don't know how the biracial community was treated at that time. But I know it. But perhaps the Native community was treated differently.
That part.
Probably not.
Probably not, but maybe a little better,
but
than what
slightly better
for them.
Exactly. And it may have been easier to navigate the world that way, as opposed to trying to to unpack the fact that, admitting I'm half white means
Yes.
that I'm a child of rape.
Exactly. Either a child of rape, or say even if they did sleep with a white person, the guilt and the shame of sleeping with someone that has literally segregated and like killed your community. Nobody's gonna
Yes,
admit to that shit back then,
yes,
and you don't
yes,
barely now.
yeah.
So it's like that's the part
Speaking
where
of,
I couldn't blame
speak.
them.
So, boyfriend and I are
Yeah.
out now. We try real hard not to go to the south, but when we have to, um, we are met with, depending on where we're going, it's
Yeah.
either, oh my God, they are so fabulous. Oh my
Yeah.
God, snap, 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 snap. Because we're leggy and lovely, and
Yes.
he's almost exactly the same height as I
Ooh,
am. We
okay.
have kind of similar face structures.
Yeah.
He's fucking beautiful.
Okay
But
now.
anyway, we walk into a room and people are like, yes, or,
Yeah. Yeah.
and we were at this event here in Harlem, no doubt.
Okay.
And we're at this Black event. And I preface that because of what I'm about to say. I meet this older Black lady and I was like, yes, I want to invite you on my podcast. I unpack racism. I just want to get your perspective on race. And she, sitting regal, looks up at my boyfriend. Oh, you got to get my hand in here because she's doing this with her
Absolutely.
hand. Looks over at me, back over at Scott. How does this work?
I love me some us though, Loki. I really do. I love our community. I love our culture. I love everything, even the shady, petty ass moments. How is this gonna work?
And I said, and it actually caught me off guard
Right.
because I hadn't expected that question
Yeah.
from a Black woman.
Yeah.
I've gotten it from white women, and I've gotten things, it's just weird. But
Yeah.
I said to her, I was like, listen, ma'am, I understand that he is white as hell,
Yeah.
and
Right.
I'm a beautiful black
Damn.
man.
Yeah.
And what we do is we have open, honest conversations at all times about
Yes.
our race, the racism surrounding us, and how we
Yes.
navigate it beautifully and with class and charm.
Yeah. And that's
And
all
she
you can do.
says, and
That's
she
all you can do.
says, that's cute.
I love it. I am so here for it. I am so here for it. That is too funny. But
But
have
we
you been
were
in
like,
moments though? Like, have you been in situations though, like when something has been so blatantly racist or like veiled in that racism that your partner is like, "Oh, damn, I see it." Because like for mine, even though he knows it and sees it, there's moments where he's like, okay, maybe like I'll say a situation, he's like, oh, how do you know that's racist and things like that? But then he'll be
because
in a
I
moment
know.
where it happens to me. He's like,
Mhm.
damn, you right. Because like it just happened to me 2 weeks ago. We were in Puerto Rico. Like, so finally we
Okay.
get vaccinated. I'm like, we getting out this
Yes.
bitch. I'm getting out this
Yes.
house. So
Uh-huh.
we literally go to this nice resort on Puerto Rico. And it's so fucking ridiculous. And so like we're going to the pool. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go up there and get some towels for us, blah, blah, blah. And so we're walking, and Corey and I are walking this way. This white lady's kind of like just standing there. And so I'm like, hey, do you know where the pool, or no, I think she heard us talking about the pool towels or something somehow. So I
Mhm.
go ahead to Corey and get the pool towels, and then Corey's talking to her now. And I come back with our towels. And this lady has the audacity to be like, oh, excuse me, sir. Can you go get me 2 towels? Like I work there. And I was like, and Corey's like, no, he's with me. He's my husband. She's like, oh, I am so sorry. I thought you worked here. I'm like, oh my God, bitch. Just because I'm the black person here, you want me to, hey, go get your damn towels, and you thought I worked there. And Corey, and literally I caught Corey's eye, and he's just like, and it's just those moments that like you tell the story, and if he wasn't there, he'd be like, oh, that probably didn't happen that way. No, bitch, it happens
And
that
it happened
fucking
that way.
way.
You were there, I was there, we were both
Exactly.
there.
And so it's always those little moments where it reaffirms for him, damn. He's
Now,
like, yeah.
Scott and I, now, Scott is at the time when we met, he was 6 weeks away from going to Michigan, Upper Michigan. He went to shit.
Ooh. It's
I don't
pretty
know,
up there,
some way up there above Grand Rapids, like super
Traverse City.
Northport.
Oh, Northport is
He went to
money.
Northport. Yeah, money.
I have one of my best friends that I grew up with. His stepdad has they call it a cabin, but it's literally like a 3,000 square foot house up there in Northport.
So 6 weeks after we started dating, he went to Northport to direct The Wizard of Oz.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And in that time, we were sending letters back and forth to each other, like old school correspondence.
Yes.
And we had a very old fashioned romance. And I decided to fly from New York to
Traverse City
for his opening night.
Okay.
In Northport.
Okay.
So I get there, right? And I'm sorry, I have to get a proper place.
Exactly.
Now I get there and
I'm laughing because I grew up there, literally not that area, but like Michigan, and vacate there during the summer months. I know the mentality of the area, so oh God, I'm not ready.
He's like frantically running around. It's like my plane was late. I had to drive 4 hours from the airport, blah, 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 blah. The curtain was coming up in 5 minutes and I was like coming to surprise him. Yeah. So I go and I'm like speeding and I get there, open the door, and it's inside of the local high school, I think, inside the local high school theater. I open the door. Every single old white biddy.
Mm-hmm. Tell me you strutted to your seat.
Are you Jonathan?
It's like, hi.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah. As a matter of fact, I am.
I am so here.
And then they completely do a quick semicircle, and I'm all like, y'all, the show is about to start. Right. Could you go sit down?
Right.
It's gonna take you forever to get there. So everybody sits down. The show is a smash and blah blah blah. Clap, clap, clap. The one black girl in cast played the Cowardly Lion. She was lovely.
Okay.
She was lovely. High kicks, high kicks.
Yes.
I said exactly 2 words to her. Good job, sis. So it must have been
all
3.
you did. Right.
It must have
That's
been
all
3.
You got to say.
Like, good job, sis. We hugged. We gave each other that look. You know the look when you see one. When you see like one of us, we see
each other.
We're like, girl, if shit pops off, I got you. And so she walks away, and then I literally open my eyes from a blink, and I'm surrounded.
Yeah.
And they're getting closer. And you know how it's like you're a little too fascinated with me.
Yes. Yes.
And I'm trying to be polite, but this is goddamn uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And so then we get back to New York and we go out to hate this story. Love this story. So we go out to this taco place in the middle of Washington Heights. In like northern, like Washington Heights.
Yeah.
Very Dominican neighborhood.
Okay. Yeah.
And we go to this, we're about ready to have some damn tacos.
I know that's right.
Margaritas and
right
shit.
Now.
Girl. Anyway, so as we're walking up, there's this table of black young people sitting out on the patio, being rowdy as young people are. After a couple of margaritas, we're all a little rowdy. Absolutely. But then we walk in, there's like destruction inside the restaurant. Like there's the one busser there just trying to scrub off tables. There's like
Yeah.
maybe 3 occupied tables. And we're in the middle of conversation because we're all new love. You know
Right.
how it
Right.
is. Like, oh, woo,
Exactly.
woo, 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 woo. Anyway, so we're all young, new love. And so we don't really pay attention. A couple minutes pass by, 6 minutes pass by, and I'm all like, so the busser is all like, hey, you guys want to sit down? We were like, sure. So we sit. The table wasn't quite clean yet, but we
Yeah.
understood that he was going through it. And
Yeah.
at the time, my boyfriend Scott was actively working as a
Yes.
waiter because he's an actor in New York. So
Exactly.
waiter.
It's like we
And
get it though.
so I'm understanding. So we sit there. 10 minutes come by, 15 minutes go by. But again, we're in the middle of a conversation.
Yeah.
So eventually, this motherfucker comes over to the table by the name, this potato white fella by the name of, what was his name? Jake?
From State Farm.
Yeah, his name was Jake, I think. And Jake slinks up to the bar and he's all like, oh, I see I already made an order. But that was already on the table. We was like, no, this table is blah, blah, blah. Scott's all like, no, this was from the people before us.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, sorry. So he wipes off the table and throws down some menus. And then he walks away. The busser finally brings us over some water, and then we make our selections, and he comes back over. Now, I'm sitting on this side of the table. Scott is sitting here. Jake is here. Jake says, what can I get you? Focusing in on Scott. And he's all like, oh,
Yes.
what can I get you? And then Scott's all like, well, I want a margarita, and here's our blah, 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 blah. He turns on his heels toward me, but ignoring me at the table, just turns and spins around on his heels. And Scott's all like, oh, excuse me. Oh, yes. Can he get a, what else can I get you? Looking right at Scott. I was
Hold
like,
on
I'll
now.
have another margarita. I'll have a margarita.
Yeah.
And he's looking again right at Scott. And Scott says, he'll have another margarita. Oh, okay, okay. Then he walks away. I was like, okay. Now, he and I are still new love. And
Right.
I say to myself, okay,
You say, self, I ain't gonna show out today.
so then he comes over and he brings 2 margaritas and he puts 1 and 2 both in front of Scott.
Damn.
And then Scott, in the middle of a conversation, not even thinking about it, he takes 1 and puts it in front of me. Not just like as a polite person would do.
Exactly.
And so we're in the middle of a conversation, and I'm all like, and I'm starting it's real hard for me to be focusing on what Scott's talking about.
Yeah.
Because in my head, I'm negotiating how black do I have to be.
I know
now,
that's right.
The occupied tables in the restaurant were white folks. Bartender, this grizzly kind of, hipster, beard, Brooklyn-y, kind of, the type, the gentrifier drag.
Yes.
And so, but you know what I mean by that. You know exactly what I mean by that. And so
I do. That is funny.
He's like screaming, like, I'm gonna fuck them up, fuck them. I don't need their fucking money, about these kids out living their young black lives out on the patio. Get them the fuck out of here. These fucking, and then as he's about to fix his mouth to say something dirty, he looks around and he sees this lone black man in the room. And we make eyes and I'm all like, I'll fucking dare you.
Right.
Now, again, Scott's still sitting here in the middle of his conversation, just minding his own little, in his head, we are having a great date.
Right.
So then Jake brings over some runny ass
guacamole.
Some runny ass guacamole and puts it all in front of some disrespectful guacamole. If you're going to make some, with just
take this shit back.
What the fuck is this? So here I am, like I'm trying. So he puts the guacamole and chips right in front of Scott. Anything else I can get for you? She says. That was number 3.
Right.
Then these punk ass tacos show up.
So not only is it a like racist building, you ain't even getting food though. Like you still hangry.
And in the journey through my feelings,
Right.
I'm in the Kerel, I'm in the journey through my feelings. I'm all like, which black version of me is gonna have to come out here? And then the piece de resistance. This mother. So Scott says, I was like, oh yeah, we probably need some silverware. I say to Scott, because at this point I'm realizing that Miss Jake has not even acknowledged that I'm at the table.
Right.
So Scott says, can we get some silverware? This motherfucker reaches over the table, arm over my plate, grabs silverware, and then drops it 2 inches in front of me.
Oh, see.
Then he spins around on his heels, and I say to Scott, I was like, do you know that he hasn't even acknowledged the fact that I'm at this table? Do you also know that I'm the only black man in this room? Do you also know that the only other black people at this table, the bartender is trying to throw out and screaming epithets at? Did you realize? And then he says,
yeah.
Okay. Then the bill comes. He drops it. Put our cards in. I was like, watch this. I take the card.
Yeah.
And I hold it up. And I held it there. He didn't come near the table. And I held it there for 5-10 minutes.
Yeah.
Then I put it down. Scott touched it, and here he was.
Right.
He comes back. We tip. You know why I tipped him? Because my boyfriend at that time was an active waiter. That was the only reason why I tipped.
Yeah.
Because I didn't want this person that I was currently falling in love with to think that I was a come on, sunlight, but that I was being disrespectful to his survival career.
Absolutely.
That's the only reason why I tipped. Now, as we're leaving the restaurant, we're walking home, talking. Do you know that Scott gets a wolf and some dick pics from Jake? Followed up with, stop slumming with black dick. Come back.
Wow.
Want another story? But anyway,
quit
this is
slumming with black dick. Come back. That's a lot.
Mm-hmm.
That's a lot. Wow.
So it's like we navigate this territory, and we do it with humor and style. And because before I was a conversationalist, I don't like the word podcaster, I'm a conversationalist.
Okay, now.
I was a stylist, and I feel like if I'm gonna walk into a room, I know you're gonna look.
Right.
I may as well give you something.
Give them a show, boo boo. I know that's right.
Look, you go look, drink it in.
Ow.
Drink it all in, and then tell your mama about it. And tell her, I said, how's she doing? How's
she doing today? I know that's right. You know, that's a valid statement you just made, though. It's just like, despite the
oh yeah, that's better.
The blatant racism, the nuanced racism, all the above. our communities are still out here doing dope shit. We're still
Thriving.
out here, you know, and that's the thing, is just like, man, we are dope as hell. Because despite that, we are just still breaking records wherever we're doing. We're still putting out things that people want to copy and steal. Like,
and then put your lips on it and talk about, oh my God, we invented this. No, you
right.
didn't.
It's not, no, you didn't.
You ain't invented
sit your ass
shit.
out.
Shit,
Right.
Sit down. Sit
So
down
it's just,
somewhere.
That's like, and that's maybe another thing, just getting older. It's just like, I just genuinely love my community. I really do. I mean, yes, there's people that piss you off and things like that, but at the end of the day, I'm rooting for everybody Black, everybody POC, because I know day in, day out, the microaggressions we have to go through even those days we don't feel like dealing with no motherfucker at all.
Do you know that I don't deal with that anymore?
What's that?
The microaggressions and all that bullshit. I'm done.
Yeah.
It's all like, I'm not on my watch.
Yeah.
And I do it for the reasons I told you earlier.
Absolutely.
Because you gonna do it to somebody and they're gonna whoop your ass, and I don't want them to get a case. But I don't want them to get a case.
You're right. You know, you're right.
I know that you can't do anything to me because I fashion myself. We refer to ourselves as the peacocks, not in the way that it's like I'm showing off to show off. I'm so fabulous that you just don't want to deal with it. It's all like, oh, she looks like she is just too much. It's too.
Yeah,
it's gonna.
It's just
it's,
right.
I don't even know.
It's like, I don't got the energy.
I don't have the energy to deal with this bitch, so I'm gonna just let it be.
I would just say, like, nobody's gonna do shit to me. I mean,
and like, what are you gonna do? What are you you're gonna call the cops on me because I made you cry? What did I do?
Right.
Tell you about yourself?
Exactly.
I told you about yourself. And so what? You went your entire life and nobody told you about yourself? You were inconvenienced.
But welcome to 2021.
Minutes.
Right, exactly.
You were inconvenienced for 6 minutes. Bitch, I've been walking around here for 48 years inconvenienced. You can be inconvenienced for a low 2 or 3 minutes.
That part. I know, like, I had a friend. He's a white guy, and we have great conversations, but a lot of times I don't think anyone has challenged him.
Mm-hmm.
And it always seems like I'm the one challenging him. I'm like, okay, nobody told you that. That ain't it. But like, even recently, I don't know how we got in the conversation, but he was just talking about like the influx of just like in commercials, more like interracial families shown in commercials and interracial relationships and things like that. And he's like, and he's a gay guy, but he's like, has the pendulum swung too far? And I was like, what? I was like, what does that mean? He's like, can't there be maybe a balance that there's still like the white couples and this and that? I was like, no, y'all had, like, how long TV been around? And he was like, I don't know, 80 years. I was like, y'all had 79 years of fucking you on TV.
You know
can
what?
deal with a year of more
influx
of interracial shit.
Part and parcel to the problem.
Absolutely.
That's the problem, because we have our white queer allies, our friends who say some dumb shit like that. Because
absolutely.
if you can't envision a world that's not centered around you,
yes,
why in the fuck are you calling yourself my friend?
You right on that. You right on that. And it was weird, like and I don't know how we got in that conversation, like what would have made us think about commercials. But I was sitting there and I was like, no one else is like, hold on, this is foul. No one else is saying shit. Hold on, time out. No, this conversation ain't going farther. Hold on.
Like, wait. You just said something stupid.
Exactly. And I was like,
you just said something stupid.
I was like, why do you feel that way? Like, how's that? Where's that stemming from? That you feel like something's been taken away from you from a fucking commercial that 99 times out of 100 you probably fast forwarding on your DVR. So how's that affecting your life so prevalently?
How is seeing these representations of other affecting your white life? It's not.
It's not at all.
It's not
at all.
And if you don't like it, turn the channel. If you don't like my relationship, don't look.
And that's the crazy thing is, it's like, he sees I'm in an interracial relationship. So like, for me, I'm like, shit, I'm happy to see us on the screen. You know, cool. Like, I'm represented. Right. So what you telling me right now is that you don't want to see me nowhere.
Yeah.
It's like, we eat Cheerios too, bitch.
We like them. They're delicious. We have CIA prep too. Shit.
Right.
How dare you?
So, so
And
it's just interesting moments like that where again people
but you know what
get too
that's from
comfortable
though?
and see you as
No,
this safe
no, it's
black
it's
person in the
because
room that I'm not
yeah,
going to say something.
but it's because we have constantly
Hmm.
centered whiteness.
Yeah, yeah,
Whiteness for Americans is neutrality.
yeah. You're right. Absolutely,
And so
absolutely.
all of our shows, if they're black, if they have a black cast, they're considered black shows.
Hmm.
But if they have a white cast, they're just shows.
Yeah, yeah,
They're just shows.
yeah,
You can
yeah,
completely rip everything from Queen Latifah and them and then rebrand it and call it Friends.
yeah, yeah.
And they go on forever
He said
making
Queen Latisha.
you heard me. Um
Love it. Oh, so here for it.
but it's just like I'm so tired of the hypocrisy of it
Yeah,
all.
yeah,
And by the continued acquiescence by us walking around here black in white spaces and us not saying anything, we're
right.
acquiescing.
Yeah, yeah,
We're
yeah,
continuing to allow this foolishness, and I say no more.
yeah. No, I'm here with you.
I
And that's
was just I was just recently down in North Carolina.
oh,
Now,
okay.
Scott
What
and I
part?
went down. We went down to New Bern, North Carolina.
Don't know where that is. Where's that?
It's real pretty, honey.
Okay.
It is where money,
Okay.
money.
New Bern, North Carolina. Okay.
Now, we went down there, our beautiful, fabulous New York self,
Yes.
giving you fashions and looks.
Okay. Now.
And we went down for my for Scott's Nana's funeral. God rest her
Okay.
soul.
Yes.
And at one point, I was asked. Someone walks up to me and they say, "Well, what do you? Well, I know what he does. What do you do for a living?" I said, "Well, I host a podcast." Oh, what's the podcast? It's called Race Kiki with Jonathan Lee. And I held it there.
Yes.
She says, race Kiki, which what do you talk? I was like, oh, I talk about racism and how it affects everybody's life and the intersectionality of it all. For instance, when did you learn about race? And I held it there.
Yep.
And I love dramatic effect. I love telling stories with dramatic effect. And I like to watch people, the reactions in their face as they're answering a question.
Right.
That's why I like this podcast to be face to face, because I
Yeah.
there's so much to be
There's
said in
nuance.
the way
Yeah.
you in the nuance in which you answer a question. And she said, well, um we had black nannies when I was growing up, and we loved them just like family. Did you notice where I paused?
Yes.
Do you know why I paused there? Because I saw her change the word
Right.
from mammy to nanny as it was coming
Yes.
out of her mouth. I watched it happen.
And here's the thing, like I've it's always interesting to me to see the response because it always goes back to the black white thing. Like it could have been any other race. It could have been like what you learned in school potentially. It could have been like a
Yeah,
million different
I just asked a question
things.
about race.
Exactly.
And usually when I ask that question, and it's one of my favorite questions to ask to white people, because when I ask it to white people, they never talk about themselves because white people don't
Right.
consider themselves a race.
Yeah. Yeah.
Again, white is neutrality. White is normal.
Yeah.
And we've been green lighting and allowing that for forever.
Since the beginning of the
And
country.
we're just continuing to green light it.
Yeah.
And we say, okay, we're gonna go for change. We're gonna go for change. And we BIPOC always end up compromising, because what the greater majority doesn't want to do is make the base, the most emboldened racist,
Yeah.
uncomfortable.
Yeah.
So we as BIPOC namely Black folk, we've always had to compromise.
Yeah.
We've
It's been
always had to get the shorter end of the stick.
this. Yeah. It's been interesting growing up in like Michigan, living in Chicago, living in Dallas, like these kind of predominantly, even though I mean like Chicago that is very segregated, but at least
Mm-hmm.
has communities of color.
Mm-hmm.
But living in Atlanta, it's been interesting to live here now in my adult life, just because it's like the blackest city on earth is hilarious. But
Okay.
for once, it's interesting just to see day in day out. Like you could go to the grocery store and the clerk might be a black person, then you could go and see like someone driving a Ferrari, and who knows whatever their career is, but you see a fuller spectrum of the black community living here.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And it's just day in day out life, and it's just so quote unquote normal. And it's interesting to be here for the last 4 years of just minute stuff that like in other cities would have been a white person,
Mm-hmm.
but here every aspect of life is black people, and it's amazing.
I should get down there. I should really get down there.
Absolutely.
Do you know that when I moved to New York, I moved into Hell's Kitchen, predominantly
Mm-hmm.
white.
Yeah.
Um, this is probably one of the queerest and most segregated cities I've ever lived in.
Really, really.
At
I
the
believe
it's
it.
both it's the queerest city I've ever lived in and the most segregated, and even our gays
Yeah.
are segregated.
The gays are still pretty segregated here, though. Like, there's definitely the black gay bars
Mm-hmm.
and the predominantly white gay bars,
And
and that's been in
and
every
why
city I've
is
lived in as
that?
well. I
And
don't
why
know.
is that?
I don't know. I call it out every time. Like, I'm like, why? Like, why? Like, I don't get. Especially like in the gayborhood here in Atlanta, the gay black bar, the main one that's down there, is literally just like down the street around the corner, but it's still so fucking segregated. But almost in the reverse side of it too, if I go there and look like my husband just is my husband, he's gonna talk to everybody. Everybody loves
Mm-hmm.
Corey,
Mm-hmm.
so we never had issue. But there's been times where other friends that are in interracial relationships have gone there with their white partner or whatever, and that bar is like, wait, what is he doing that? And it's like almost territorial, unfortunately, within the communities, because it's been so segregated that it's like we
Mm-hmm.
finally have our space, and now you want to try to infiltrate this too. So you see that a lot. But like, yeah, every city I've lived in, the gay scene has been very segregated, and Atlanta is no
Same,
exception.
same. And I wonder if that has a lot to do with we are a marginalized community, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we black, queer, male identifying humans,
Right.
or however you identify.
Right.
I don't know your journey,
Yeah.
but we have all of these intersectionalities that we're running around with, right? So we get out into the world, and I don't know how lots of people come toward their gay. Mine was like, "Oh, you're gay? Okay, come on."
Yeah.
And I don't think I was ever in, so I
Okay.
don't think I ever had to come out.
Right. Right.
So, and yet I remember constantly having to, but I also remember myself not being embraced by Black queerness.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
remember myself, because of my association with white folks.
Mm-hmm.
I've never been embraced by Black
Yeah.
queerness,
Yeah. Yeah.
which, and I go to Black queer bars and go to white queer bars, and I go to all these bars, and they're all shit. And because look, they all play the same music, they all have the
Yeah.
same messy drama, they
Yeah.
all have the same drag queens during the same numbers,
You're
they
right.
all have the same slut queens, they all have the same muscle queens. It's
Which will make you think we
it's
would all
all
be
the
together,
same.
because it's the same everywhere. So it's just like, that's the sad thing. It's just like, then why the hell we segregated? Because it's literally the same drama.
It's
Like you
the
said, it's the
same
same
shit.
thing. And it's just like, there's no need to be segregated then.
So like, girl, y'all are all exhausting. Y'all are just
Right.
all y'all are just either running away from a bully or running toward dick, and I get it.
Right.
And we can't we can't survive this way anymore,
No,
Kerel.
no.
We can't
I
do it
agree.
anymore.
I agree. Especially after like the last year we've had. It's just like, and not even talking about COVID. It's just like the whole Black Lives Matter
Everything.
things. It's
Everything.
just like you would think after that year we've had, people it would click because there was no escaping it. We were all at the crib. We were either at the crib at a march. Like there was nowhere else to go. But I'm scared as things begin to open up. It's so easy to forget and be like, okay, at least now it's back to quote unquote normal when we have an opportunity to fix a lot of shit and it doesn't look like it's happening.
What's happening, what I truly believe is happening is that cult of personality that gets us all sucked into our reality shows and back to normal, and then gets us all out and back to work and what have you. But then have this ongoing fight with unemployment versus a living wage. That this whole fight, which is ramping up crime, or at least so we believe, this crime narrative that we're spewing at this moment. But we're not talking about the purpose behind the crime.
Right.
We're not talking about what this is all about. We're talking about flooding the nation with more police officers, with more tougher
just laws and
yes,
all the above.
All we're doing is fixing, putting a band-aid on an open wound. And not dealing with all the systemic problems that are like running rampant in this nation.
No, I agree.
And all we're doing is killing each other, and we shouldn't. We just can't. We can't continue to do this anymore.
I agree. But
and on that note, I need you to plug some shit.
Yes,
you're going on at this. I'm loading this on Monday, the same time as your Minority Report.
Yes. Minority Report, new episodes every Monday, wherever you listen to podcasts, also on YouTube. Like you said, like we started putting the episodes on YouTube probably about a year ago, just because we're all a little animated. We all talk with our hands, and just that nuance is a whole nother different experience. But if you prefer podcasts, wherever you stream it, social media is Minority Report, and that's like sipping tea, like spilling tea, on all the socials. So find us out there and join the community.
Well, thank you so much for joining me. I really enjoyed this conversation.
Absolutely. And you're gonna have to come on. You're gonna have to come over and chill with the aunties.
Come on, bring it.
Okay.
I would love to have a conversation with y'all.
Absolutely.